land is your land, and this land is my land, from the California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
Good evening. From California to the New York Island, this is the Stars and Stripes and Fife and Drum and Cotton Candy Day, the happiest date on the American calendar. We celebrate it just the way John Adams said we should. From Philadelphia in 1776, all excited by the Declaration of Independence, he wrote home to his wife Abigail, "This day ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations, from one end of this continent to the other, from this day forward, forevermore." And that's just the way we do it. Fourths of July are days to remember. Here are a few I remember. One in John Adams's Massachusetts that would have lifted the old man's heart all these years later. Pomp and parade, as he urged, at one end of the continent. And at the other, shows, games, and sports, as he prescribed, in North Fork, California.
3-man report to the announcing stand to give Harry, please.
In North Fork, the 4th of July brings the lumberjacks out of the logging camps and into town, toting the tools of their trade, shining steel, razor sharp. As I look back on Independence Days I have known, I remember Dyke Fink and Herb Punkin and Phil Music. There's a can of beer in the center of that target. They went through a couple of cases of beer before the day was done. When do you ever get a chance to throw axes nowadays?
Well, they feed you in the cookhouse at 5:30, and it don't get dark till 9 o'clock. What you gonna do?
Go out and throw axes,
Well,
huh?
you get tired of fishing, you get tired of hunting, so you throw axes.
How does it go in the logging camp? What are the rules?
Larry Johnson in the hole. Monty Wheeler.
No, there isn't any rules. Well, the way we was doing it, just take turns throwing first, then throw for his handle. And get kind of hard on handles, but...
You mean some guys are actually good enough to split another fellow's handle?
Well, not every shot, but about every fourth or fifth shot, you can get one if you're lucky.
John Adams didn't say anything about axe throwing, of course, or about this either, but this is the way they celebrate the 4th in Somerset, Wisconsin. What is? This is tubing on the Apple River. Somerset, which only has about 800 people, has 15,000 inner tubes, and on the 4th of July, they're all rented out. People go 4 miles out of Somerset, get a tube, and head for town. They head for town by just sitting down and letting the cow and corn country scenery go by. You can take a 4th of July nap out here until you get waked up by the rapids. I spent one 4th of July in Ohio with Clovis Watkins, a tinkerer, who tinkered with pipes and valves and tubes and found 3 years later that he had built his own steam calliope. I thought a calliope concert was entirely in the spirit of the holiday. As was the greased pig contest in Salina, Kansas, and the hallowed 4th of July custom of dunking a pretty girl in a cattle tank full of water for the benefit of the PTA. More than once, I've spent this day on the lawn of Mr. Jefferson's house at Monticello. If you want to be moved, this is the place to be, where every year Ghanaians and Koreans and Iraqis and Chinese renounce, in the antique language of the old oath, every foreign prince and potentate, and become real live nephews of their Uncle Sam, reborn on the 4th of July. And every year I've watched the flags come out in the morning in places like Bristol, Rhode Island, as they have since John Adams suggested it in 1776. And as they will, Mr. Adams, from this day forward, forevermore. Here is a gift of stars and stripes, which we found in abundance at Annan and Company, the country's oldest and largest flag maker, which has given us millions of miles of stripes and a universe of stars for the last 140 years. Annan made the battle flags for the Union Army, and the flag that covered Lincoln's coffin, and the first American flags to reach the North Pole, the South Pole, and the top of Mount Everest. And the first American flag on the moon, that too was born on the sewing machines of Verona, New Jersey, Stars and Stripes supplier to this and other worlds. The people who make America's flags are not named Betsy Ross, by the way. Their names are a roll call of America. Maria Gaycott and Mary Jablonski work over there on a billowing sea of red, white, and blue. Anna Volotari, Natalie Segedi, Doris Jackson, Faye Lapomo, Heng Tom, Anne Oliveri, Mary Miranda, Tom Ryder, John Autry, Julia Kubat, Lucy Mell. You can't hang around here very long without hearing a song in your head. You know which song. That's the one. This is the place that takes that old march and makes it literal. Stars and stripes forever. There is a bit of Americana. Now to meet some Americans, some of the best, a writer and photographer, a riverman, an artist, and a troubadour as our Independence Day celebration continues. Red, white, and blue are our colors tonight, of course, and green, the green of this little plot of land, the village green of Bedford, New York. This is what the 4th of July is about, all the village greens that ever were and still are. We celebrate the nation on the 4th of July, but we celebrate in our own little parts of it, the places we know best. The place Eudora Welty knows best is the Deep South, around Jackson, Mississippi, where she was born and has always lived. Eudora Welty is one of our very best writers, but she has celebrated her part of America in another way, too. I think some people will be surprised when they find that Eudora Welty is a photographer, too.
Well, but I'm not a professional photographer. That's, you know, it doesn't pretend to be anything, except...
It doesn't pretend. Eudora Welty doesn't pretend. Not as a writer, nor when she picked up a camera during the Depression. At the typewriter and through the viewfinder, what she has always done is try to see clearly. Let me just show you a couple of my favorites.
I'd like to know what you like.
I I like your pictures of encounters on the street. This one seems to me to be especially graceful and somehow wistful photograph.
That was I think in Grenada, Mississippi. And that was an era when people wore long dresses. You know, this was out early in the morning on Saturday, you know, going to town and shopping. And I like the hat in the pocket, don't you, over there?
Yeah.
Which he had removed to speak to her. Oh yeah, I like her.
The quality of the light and her stance. Do you remember anything about that picture?
Sure, I remember taking it. I know just where it was. It was in Jackson on Ferry Street, which leaves Capitol. It was the Black Business Street, the big, where everything happened. She was hollering to somebody on the second floor of a building. You know, hey, it was just a greeting, just morning exchanges of hellos.
You know, I grew up in a place where life was pretty much like this, and a lot of these pictures look familiar to me.
I thought they might be.
This one, for example, could be down at the feed store or the courthouse.
Absolutely. That's where those suspenders.
My grandmother used to stir I don't know if she was cooking, but my grandmother used to wash clothes this way.
Well, I don't know which she's doing. I couldn't, because you do both in a big pot. I think she was washing clothes because she's got that stick with her that I think is called a battle stick that you go after the clothes with. I mean, that she called it a battle stick.
Lye soap and long johns and a long stick and steamy clouds in the side
remember how
yard.
that smelled, the steam coming up from boiling union suits or whatever. Oh, yeah.
Eudora Welty wrote, "Traveling over the whole of Mississippi, taking pictures, I saw my home state at close hand, really for the first time. The camera was a handheld auxiliary of wanting to know. I learned in the doing," she wrote, "how ready I had to be. Life doesn't hold still. A good snapshot stopped a moment from running away."
I never had anyone object. And some said that they wanted me to because they never had a picture taken. And I often would send them one, you know, this was a depression. Nobody had anything, and the black people least of all.
You know, you hear Southerners say all the time, well, we were poor, but we didn't know we were poor. That's a cliche, but you can see it in some of these photographs. You know, that it's the way life is,
and they were. What I love about them is that dignity comes through.
Oh yes, talk about dignity.
Ooh, she's so wonderful. That's a beautiful picture to me.
Do you remember the circumstances under which you took it?
It was between here and Utica, Mississippi, a road I used to go on a lot. And we were talking. I just stopped to, speak to her. And I asked her if I could take a picture. And I'm sure she's one of the people that said she never had a photograph made. She's wonderful.
Your pictures certainly, they certainly are revelatory about the people.
They are. But I'm not shaking my finger in anybody's face. It's not my place.
This great old white oak tree, the Bedford oak, was born here long before America was born. When we celebrate America, we celebrate all the travelers who passed here in wagons headed west, the cabin builders and barn raisers, those who went first into America so that the rest of us could follow along behind, the pioneers. And do you think the pioneers are all gone? Oh no, we met one not long ago at all and thought you ought to know him too on America's birthday.
Can you step in? Sit down in there?
Yeah, can you step right in there and you can sit down on the seat?
I'll give you a hand, Glen. Yeah, grab that other arm on make sure he's...
It was in Grants Pass, Oregon, on a bank of the Rogue River that we met Glen Wooldridge. He was nearly 90 then. He had two young friends, Dave Fuller and Raleigh Wisbrock, with him for support, and others were there too on the riverbank to wish Glen Wooldridge well.
Good to see you.
Nice job.
And to see him off.
Have a good trip, Glen.
Thank you. I can't. I don't see how we can miss.
Bye, Glen.
Why would a crowd collect around an old man in a boat?
See you later.
Because Glen Wooldridge was one of those who went first so that others could follow.
How many people saw you off 7 years ago?
You know, I don't hear with a damn.
Did anybody wave goodbye to you?
Hell no, there wasn't anybody here.
In 1915, America was growing citified and civilized. But Glen Wooldridge's corner of Oregon was still young and wild and green. And the Rogue was wilder even than the wilderness through which it poured, as wild as at its creation, and very nearly as unknown, until Glen Wooldridge decided to know it.
Glen was really a special man. He was the first person to have run this river. He looked at it when he was a young man over 70 years ago and said, you know, I want to go find out where it goes. I want to see where it goes. And no one had ever run it before, ever. He and a friend built a boat, jumped in the boat, and all the way to the ocean. They rode all the way to the ocean in one trip. That was marvelous. It opened up this country.
Glen Wooldridge spent his life on the river and made his living beside it, fishing, designing and building boats, and as a guide, taking fishermen and thrill seekers and celebrities on what must have been, for every one of them, the ride of a lifetime. Clark Gable entrusted himself to Glen Wooldridge, as did Ginger Rogers and the Western writer Zane Grey, and Herbert Hoover.
Well, he was a real quiet sort of a fellow. He never started a conversation with you. I kind of figured I thought I was too dumb to understand it anyway. But he was not a conversationalist, but he's a pretty good fisherman.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's better than Zane Grey for this kind of fishing.
There were long periods of time when we would drift with no other sounds than the river sounds. I knew that during those periods of time that he was reliving some of those hundreds of trips that he took in the last 70 years.
All those years, this great rushing beast of a river allowed Glen Wooldridge to ride upon its rippling, miles-long back out of respect. It threw many others off. Look, in that wild horizontal storm, that river forever braiding and rebraiding itself, Glen Wooldridge hardly leans at all. He might be standing on a dock.
The river moves and it flows, and you could see that movement in him. He flowed with the river. He was still a part of it, and he had this smile that came over his face, and he was home. He was back home.
the first trip down, did you see any old miners out there? Didn't some miners try to stop you
That
from
was
going?
just the tail end of the early day miners.
Uh-huh.
Really, that was the tail end of the early day miners. There was only one mine operating.
To have him in my boat and see him seeing the same things I was seeing at the same time, running the same rapids, seeing the same wildlife, it's beyond description how it felt.
Well, that's where I spent my life, you know, sitting on the riverbank when I should have been studying my school books.
There's something very strong and primal about the river. It may sound a little hokey, but once you're out there and once you feel it and once you see the big rapids and once you feel the big water and once you have the thrill, once you have the terror, the fear, the companionship, or once you feel that, you know what that link to the past is. And Glen shared that with us. We shared that with him.
I had that in mind for quite some time, but as soon as I got motors that were suitable for the job.
Rivers flow forever, but men grow old. Even bold rivermen, intrepid dragonback riders who are otherwise mild and have twinkling eyes and wonderful stories to tell.
I don't consider myself a celebrity. I'm just a river rat.
Even such men as that grow old.
I've lived a good life. If I had to do over again, I wouldn't change it much. Suited me. Made a living and had a good time doing it.
It was Glen's last trip. He died a year and a half later, having said goodbye to the river. He talked about the trip, and he said that it touched him in his heart.
Lives have tributaries just as rivers do. Young torrents join old streams to strengthen and refresh and renew. In these young men, an old riverman lives on.
On the 4th of July with Charles Kuralt will continue.
This land is your land, and this land is my land, from the California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
On the 4th of July, there are two Americas at least to celebrate. One is the country we look out on from our village greens and front porches and apartment house windows. The other is the country we see with our eyes closed. That America is made up of images given us by others, the familiar portraits and landscapes that hang in the museum of our memory, in the museum of our minds. Andrew Wyeth, painter of America, has filled our heads with his visions of the country around Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania, where stands the Brandywine River Museum. Yeah, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous museum.
And I like the light up there. It's wonderful.
I walked with Andrew Wyeth past rooms of his own work and his son's work to see the work of his father. Enormous paintings, which must have seemed even more enormous to the boy Andrew Wyeth was. It's wonderful to see a painting you can appreciate at a distance of 30 feet.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, this group is practically the last work he ever did, you know.
N.C. Wyeth was a giant of American art, flamboyant and friendly, whose work was monumental, whose influence was monumental. What footsteps those were for young Andrew there to follow in.
He came, of course, from New England, which is a very severe country, and he fell in love. He walked out from Wilmington. He fell in love with this valley. At that time, it was a farming community, and very rural, nothing but dirt roads. And I think he was struck by its opulence, the rich stone buildings, the large, massive trees, the buttonwood, the oak, the elm. And I think that's what he got in his illustrations, was that terrific richness of this valley. Where I have almost returned to the New England background of severity. I prefer Pennsylvania, this open country with snow, patches of snow, and the feeling of deep earth below. That's what appeals to me. If you get to know these farmers here that have had a tough time and know them intimately as I have, you begin to realize the power of this country and the somber mood.
Oh, yeah. To me, there is mystery, something sometimes almost ecclesiastical in your paintings. Are you familiar intimately with the book of Ecclesiastes? I've always wanted to ask you that.
Well, you know...
which talks about the seasons and...
Yes, well, of course, religion, to me, I was brought up as a Unitarian, and we were never forced to go to church. But I always felt that I got more religion than many people that went to church, because my father felt very strong about feeling the religious quality of life and of the landscape. But it always seemed obvious to go into a building and sit and listen to someone preach. And I was never terribly impressed by the ministers I met. Once in a while I met a few that impressed me, but most of them, I thought, why the hell do I have to sit here and listen to him when I can get it out here in the country?
Do you still get it when you walk through these
yes, of course. In fact, it means more to me as I get older. As you get older, it's tougher because I think as one gets older, you're apt to get softened on the edges. I think this is the great danger of age, is you soften.
It'd be easy to take those subjects and make them sentimental. I've never seen any sentimental quality to your painting at all, though. I don't know how you...
It's a very fine line. I'm on a very close line, because when you sense the beauty and see things, it's a tough line to put it down harshly and clearly. And actually, I'm delighted when people say, God, why don't you use more color, Andy? Or why don't you make life more joyous? I'm always delighted, because it's so easy to swing the other way. It's so easy.
And let it become
just get
simple.
To be nice, a nice picture, you know.
Andrew Wyeth does not paint nice pictures. Neither does his son, Jamie.
Jamie's very contemporary, much more contemporary than I am.
Another thing, art historians, I mean, inevitably they see artistic link from your father to you to your son. Do you see the link yourself?
Oh, of course there's a link. It's bound to be.
Yeah.
And thank God there is.
That's going to be tight on your hands going in the box.
The works of 3 generations of Wyeths, painters of America, were just then being packed and crated to be sent to the Soviet Union. 3 visions of this country, deeply rooted in certain particular patches of it, were bound away for the wide world beyond those patches. The paintings may travel. Andrew Wyeth himself has no need to. Chad's Ford is wide world enough for him.
I can look at a distant hill, and it's not just a hill with snow on it, but it's a hill that I know intimately, and I can, in painting it, I can fly across the valley and land on that top of that hill and be a part of that hill and then come back to the foreground where I am. It's not just a backdrop.
So that means you couldn't paint the hill as well if it were an Alp or a Rocky Mountain.
No, because I have an emotion towards it. I have a feeling. It's part of me. I just find the more I look, the more I feel, the more I see. And I want to go deeper. I have not exhausted the ground I stand on, is what I really mean to say.
America is a land of settlers, come along from afar to make new homes for themselves. This place, Bedford Village, has been settled for more than 300 years now and anchored at the corners of its pretty green by the old graveyard over there, by church and town hall, by schoolhouse and post office and general store, all the institutions settled people need. But America, it occurs to us on the country's birthday, is a land of ramblers, too. Think of Huck Finn floating past the settled folk on shore, and glad to be floating past. Think of Johnny Appleseed, Walt Whitman, John Steinbeck, travelers across the whole great sweep of America and tellers of travelers' tales. Think of them. And think of Woody Guthrie.
I roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the spark.
Woody Guthrie had some of Whitman's poetry in him, some of Steinbeck's storytelling ways, and some of Huck Finn's boyish mischief. He was a wiry little guy with a guitar.
That old dust storm killed my baby, but it can't kill me, Lord, and it can't kill me.
I don't think anybody knows how many songs my dad wrote. My dad must have thrown thousands out. My dad wrote extensively about everything that happened to him in his entire life, minute by minute.
Woody's son Arlo sings and writes songs too, and remembers.
If he couldn't write it the minute, he just stored it in his mind and wrote it a couple hours later at somebody's house on whatever trash they had lying around, with envelopes, old pieces of paper, grocery bags, newspapers.
I'll sing this song, but I'll sing it again, of the place that I lived on the West Texas plains.
This is just part of the Woody Guthrie archives. These drawers are loaded with his various manuscripts, books, notebooks. Woody, as I said, was always writing.
Harold Leventhal was Woody's friend and manager. Over the years, he's collected Woody's writings and drawings and songs.
In Oregon, he says. And Woody would just make notes every day, and he'd make these marvelous drawings. As you see, all his ideas, page after page.
It's a mighty hard road that my poor hand has hold. My poor feet has traveled a hot, dusty road.
Of course, he lived through a lot of things he wrote about, whether it was the unemployment era, the Dust Bowl, or not working. He lived through it, he lived with the people that he wrote about. And he had, and it comes out in his writings, a great appreciation for the underdog in this society, for the working class, for the farmers.
He's in debt up to his neck, and my brother's having a hard time.
Woody sang about hard times and people heading west out of their despair.
So long, it's been good to know you. So long, it's been good to know you. This dusty old dust is a-blowing me home. I've got to be drifting along. She went to the Union Hall.
People like Woody don't come along often. Woody could make up a song every hour of the day.
Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the Union.
I suppose it was inevitable that Woody Guthrie, young rambler and writer of songs for working people, would meet up with another champion of brave causes and plain folks named Pete Seeger. During the war, the two of you sang together formally. Well, never formally, but I mean informally.
Oh, we did. Woody said we were the only group that ever rehearsed on stage. Woody and I sang in bars, and we sang in churches, and we sang in union halls, and we sang in rallies.
Pick up a hammer in his little right hand. It's gonna be the death of me. Hammer be the death of me.
He was more of a direct actionist than I am. Once, he and Sonny Terry, the blues harmonica player, and Brownie McGee, the guitar picker, they were singing in Baltimore, Maryland in 1943 to raise money to win the war, buy war bonds. They sung songs, and then the chairperson said, "Now, Mr. Guthrie, we have a seat for you at the table, and we have a table for your friends out in the kitchen." Woody said, "What's the matter? You listen to us sing together. Why can't we sit and eat together?" "Mr. Guthrie, this is Baltimore, you must understand." Woody just shouted out, "This fight against fascism got to start right here." He picks the whole table up, tips it over. All the tableware goes crashing on the floor. He tips another chair up. They grab. Brownie says, Woody, you're going to get us all in trouble." Woody says, "This fight against fascism got to start right now."
Thinking back on the Woody Guthrie songs I know of, some of them were not political in any way. Some of them were just good songs.
A lot of them were hilarious. "I'm a-gonna write myself a letter. I'm a-gonna daub myself with glue. Stick some stamps on the top of my head. I'm a-gonna mail myself to you." Made it up for one of his kids.
My dad wrote a lot of songs for kids. He would sit around with my mom and they would take down words that my older sister would, sing and write and just play. And they would put them to music. And they came up with albums not just for kids, but I'm talking for babies.
Take me riding in the car, take me riding in the car, take you riding in the car, I'll take you riding in the car.
Yeah. What am I listening to you for? My father wrote it.
Yeah, listen to her.
Woody Guthrie's daughter Nora and her family still live in the house she grew up in Howard Beach, New York.
Door, front door, back, clickety-clack, take me riding in the car.
By the time Nora was born, her father's long illness had already begun.
So what we did after a while is that Woody started coming home from the hospital on the weekends. And then a lot of Woody's older friends, singers that he had worked with would come by on the weekends. And it seems like every Sunday there was always a, hootenanny or something happening around the house with Woody. Like I just found a little snapshot when we were cleaning out our basement, a beautiful little snapshot of Woody, that totally candid little shot. That is the first time I looked and I went, that's nice. It's not the legend, and it's not the sick person. It's the man in between.
I was born in South Carolina, down to Georgia I did go.
The man in between, a wiry little guy with a guitar and a wandering spirit, and 1,000 songs inside him.
This land is your land, and this land is my land.
They are songs filled, as Woody Guthrie was, with a great love for these people and this land.
From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. As I went a-walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway, saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me.
We're not much above sea level here in Bedford, New York, but the view from here is longer than you might think, as it is from most small towns. From this small town, in my memory, I can see all the way back to Witwen, Wisconsin.
The Lord, He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the faithful lightning of His terrible sword. His truth is marching on.
Here they come now, the Sauk County Extension Homemakers Chorus. 7 women in gowns they made themselves. Well, where can you buy gowns like that? Marching down the main street, the only street, of Witwen, Wisconsin. 4th of July in a small town. You have no idea how much preparation goes into the 4th of July in a small town.
Turn on the tape. Turn on the tape. Whoops. He's trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the faithful lightning of His terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on.
For hours the year I was there, the Sauk County Extension Homemakers Chorus practiced in Norma Clavedatcher's side yard, worrying about staying in step, worrying about whether their stripes were straight. This may seem corny to you, but in dairy farm country where everybody grows up beside a cornfield, nobody is much embarrassed by corn. Don't look for Witwen on the map, by the way. It's not on the map. Only 51 people live here when everybody's home. On the 4th of July, everybody is sure to be home. The 4th has been the biggest day of the summer for 100 summers, a day full of memories, like the memory of the cannon that Newt Witwen used to shoot off at dawn every 4th of July.
There's a hill right up here where the school used to be, and her husband used to put a cannon up there and he'd shoot it off. That was always the first thing that happened on the 4th of July.
It woke everybody up.
Woke everybody up, including the cows.
One year, they say when Newt's cannon went off, Della Sprecher was milking her cow. The cow jumped up and fell on Della, and she had to miss the parade while the doctor taped up her broken ribs. There are so many memories in a really small town where no social detail is ever forgotten. The 4-H kids will always remember being in the pageant down at the campground. And just raising the grand old flag in midsummer every year brings back memories of the Model T races and tugs of war and ice cream socials of all the 4ths of July gone by. And the crowds which come from Black Hawk and Denver and clear from Sauk City. This one day, when the flags all fly, Witwen is on the map. Julie and Jolene are names that at first did not fit the faces of the 2 little girls we watched learning the song they sang on the 4th. Julie and Jolene are Korean orphans who Morris and Nita Enge added to their big farm family. Julie and Jolene Enge were at home in Witwen, Wisconsin on the 4th of July. That alone was reason enough for the bands to play. Let Witwen, Wisconsin, population 51, stand for every place where the bands played today, where the men of the town turned the barbecued chicken to feed a multitude, where pretty girls rode on floats, each one hoping she'd be the one named Miss Sauk Prairie. In Witwen, Julie and Jolene Enge found their shoes and put them on for the day and carried balloons. And the Sauk County Homemakers Extension Chorus stayed right on key and kept their stripes straight. Glory, glory, hallelujah. And happy birthday to us all. Well, the celebration is just beginning, really. There will be proof through the night that our flag is still there. Resounding proof, bursting in air in Witwen and Chadds Ford and Jackson and Grants Pass, all the places we have visited tonight, and all the places we haven't visited too. Wherever you are, you will not be able to mistake this one night for any other. This is the night called for long ago by John Adams, the night of bells, bonfires, and illuminations. Much has changed since 1776, but on this one night, were Mr. Adams to return, I think he'd know just where he was and when, too. In America, on the 4th of July. I'm Charles Kuralt. Good night.
This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. When the sun comes shining and I was strolling, the wheat fields waving, the dust clouds rolling,